Good morning. You're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning my guest is Dan Natkin, the CEO and Managing Director of the Boen Hardwood Brand and also the Sales and Marketing Leader for Somerset. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kemp. Good to see you.
Good to talk to you. I want to catch up on this announcement that came out last week about your expanded role with Somerset. Before we get to that, you work for Bauwerk, which is a European-based company, which professionally is focused only on hardwood products, right?
That's correct. All we do is wood. All we want to do is wood.
A little on your background. By the way, if anybody wants to know a little bit more about Dan, we did a focus on leadership and floor focus on Dan in April of 2020. And you started it in the car business, went over to Armstrong, worked there, then you've been at Mannington for a long time, and then made this change, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I was with Armstrong for almost 6 years, Mannington for 15, and now with the Bauwerk Group for a year.
If you don't mind, I'll ask you a question. I mentioned it in our 30th edition. Why is Mannington still here and Armstrong not?
You know, I think it's a number of different things, but I think it ties back to the type of leadership that we had and have at Mannington. Great people to do business with.
They're family owned. They avoided the private equity. That's probably a big reason. Tell us how's business right now.
It's a bit of a roller coaster year this year. It's up, it's down, and it went from being a month up, month down to now it's almost by day. We're fighting through it. You know, I think for the last 2 years, a lot of the business has been gathering or harvesting. The orders come in and you fulfill them if you can. Now you got to go out and be a lot more of a hunter. Go out and hunt the orders. The business is still there. You got to find it.
You know, COVID came, everything slammed shut shortly. And then there was a surprising surge of demand. And that's about the time you came over to Bauwerk, I guess. And business has been really strong. Actually, 21, probably one of the best years the hardwood business has seen. Now we're in 22, and things started getting soft probably in the second quarter, right?
Yeah, late second quarter heading into the third quarter. Really began to see it in May. July was a particularly tough month, and I think that was a byproduct of people were finally taking vacations again. It was the first normal summer we saw. Came back in August a little bit, and September and October have been more challenging.
So if we had to guess on what's driving this, on the residential replacement or the consumer side of the business, I guess everybody now is a little bit scared of what's coming based on all of the noise that's out there with the Main Street media, right?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a piece of it. I've seen this now in my career a few times. When times get a little bit tough, people choose to live on ugly for a while. The good news is consumers are sitting on a ton of cash, and I think this is going to be a shorter-term slowdown than a longer term. You know, particularly the more time that people spend in their homes and they look at those floors that need replacing or refinishing, I think ultimately it's going to come back around.
Let me key in on that ton of cash thing. I can agree with you. As a matter of fact, I wrote an editorial for the November issue. It'll be available later this week. There's some pundits saying that there's $2.1 trillion worth of money in U.S. consumer savings accounts as they, pulled money out of the stock market or stopped putting their money in the market. That's sitting there, and we just need to convince the consumer that it's okay to invest in real estate, which is probably the soundest investment they can make, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, I think it will certainly come back around again. I think consumers have a much higher confidence today in the value of their homes than they did, let's say back in 2008.
So why not fix up your home and enjoy the improved finishes, and then you have that when you sell it, it'll bring more money, right?
Absolutely, and let's remember the fact that the only product that has been proven to increase the value of a home is hardwood. It's not any of the plastic stuff, it's wood.
So let's talk about this change. You're taking over the sales and marketing role at Somerset. To catch the listener up, Bauwerk bought Somerset this year in May, and Paul Stringer has been running both the operational side and the sales and marketing side. So to free him up to focus more on operations, you're taking over sales and marketing, right?
That's correct. We purchased Somerset in May, and then effective 2 weeks ago, I took over the sales and marketing leadership for Somerset under Paul's tutelage. It's like working for a legend in the industry. So it's nice to have Paul around, but it's part of the long-term transition.
Let's talk about where we are right now. We're in Louisville, and we're at the NWFA Wood Flooring Manufacturers Assembly, which I guess people who know this business really well know that this used to be called Oak Flooring. What was the name of this organization?
NOFMA, National Oak Flooring Manufacturers Association.
It was interesting to be with the group last night. It are the people who make wood flooring in this country, and it's a bit of a fraternity, isn't it?
It is. We're a very large business, but everybody kind of knows each other, very congenial. It's not like some other businesses where you're at each other's throat. It's just a good group of people.
Some of the discussion last night was whether or not this dip would drive more sawmills to close their doors, because that's what happened in '08, and hopefully this dip will be short enough where that won't happen.
Yeah, we're certainly hoping so. We don't need to lose any more sawmills in this country, that's for sure.
So as you look at 23, what segments of the business will bring the most business?
I think there'll be a return to remodel. If you look at the most recent remodel survey from Harvard Joint Center, remodel activity slowed, but it's still up 6.5%. Multifamily is going to continue to be strong. Looking at the quotation activity right now, in the back half of 23, it should be very, very strong. And builder will come back. I mean, we saw what the starts numbers doing right now, and I think that's a function somewhat of interest rates. But we're still underbuilt in this country, and people are going to need homes.
All right, Dan. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. Again, been talking to Dan Natkin, the CEO and Managing Director of Boen, and also Sales and Marketing Leader at Somerset. And you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.